What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Tim Reviews Everything and welcome to the warehouse series of this channel. Guys, this is pertaining to another comment. You guys leave comments and I think they're video worthy. I'm going to make a video of it. Our friend Curtis from Australia left me some comments, some questions that he wanted to know. I answered two of them underneath his comment. And then the third one, I told him I will make a video out of it. Just because it got me thinking. So here's the comment right here. He's basically saying, I don't know word for word, but you know, what's some of the bad things that's happened in your warehouse? We've had milk spilled in our warehouse. Yeah, we've had that too. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you either work at a small warehouse, you have not been there very long, because if that's all you've ever witnessed in your warehouse, great, that's awesome. Guys, you got to remember, in my warehouse, whenever I tell you some of the accidents that happened in our warehouse, you got to remember, I work with hundreds of people on the floor at one time, sometimes, depending on what shift it is. And remember, this is over my whole career being there. I've been in there about 23 and a half years. So this is over my whole career. And this is at 3 different buildings that I'm talking about. So when this is not all at the perishable building. We have a dry goods building, and at one time we had an extra dry goods building. So we had 3 warehouses operating at one time. So these incidences that I'm going to be talking about happened at all 3 of those warehouses at different times throughout the course of 23 and a half years. There's more. I'm just going to hit on some of the major ones. But before we get to those, I just want to address some of the things that happen in the warehouse that can cause an accident. The first thing is probably something that happens to you almost on a daily basis. Is a piece of wood gets stuck underneath your fork. Guys, if you're driving with a piece of wood underneath your fork, the best thing to do is immediately raise your forks up all the way, get off the jack, take your coaster off, put that safety brake on, make sure there's no one coming, and get down and pull that piece of wood out. It's your best move. Quit trying to shake it out. Because more than likely your wheel's going to hit it, and it may jump it, it may go over it. Usually these wheels don't, but it may go over it and you're going to knock your load over. And if you don't have a load on and you're driving down, the worst thing you could do is lower your forks all the way to try to get that piece of wood out, because what you're doing is you're just taking your wheels off the ground in the back. So now you're going to start fishtailing. If you're cutting that and you got a piece of wood under there, you're going to fishtail, and someone could get seriously injured. So best bet, get off the jack, put the safety brake up, and then get that piece of wood out. Forks up all the way, get the piece of wood out. So that's one thing I want to address. The second thing I want to address is water on the floor. Guys, whether it's a liquid spill that someone drops something, the machine's coming through that scrubs your floors, and it leaves water on the floor. Be very careful going through water. Because just the slightest turn of your wheel while you're inside slick grounds, I mean, these jacks fly. That happens at our warehouse. They are very easily able to slide. Same with the high lifts. So be very careful when traveling through water. Another thing I want to talk about, and this is more or less for a single pallet jack, is you get stuck under an empty pallet and you're trying to get that empty pallet off. Well, if the pallet is half on and half off your forks, it's the same as the piece of wood being stuck under there. You're going to start fishtailing. So if you're driving down and you're trying to shake that thing off, you could literally do a full donut. All right, you could turn 360 degrees. And I've been there and done that whenever I was a first new employee. You guys, I know if you've been in the warehouse setting, you know what I'm talking about. It could be very dangerous. It could throw you off the jack because it spins it like a top. And so if you're ever stuck underneath the pallet, ask someone for help or have someone do it for you, so you're not fishtailing and possibly throwing yourself off the jack or taking someone's feet out that's standing nearby. So that's another one I want to talk about. Another thing I want to talk about, guys, is when you're selecting in the aisle and you got your coaster on and you're walking in front of your jack. Just be careful about walking in front of your jack. People aren't paying attention, and you get your cord from your T5. If you guys got the Vocalex system, you get your cord stuck on your handle while you're walking by, and then you're jerking back. I mean, there's just a lot of things that could happen. So be careful when you're walking in front of your jack while it's coasting. All right, so those are some of the safety tips that I wanted to give you before getting to, unfortunately, some of the accidents that happen in the warehouse setting. And why do I think this is important to make a video of it? Because I want you guys to know it can happen. All right, there's so many accidents that are just waiting to happen in the warehouse setting, and thankfully, a lot of them don't happen. That's why when I told you in my one video from this warehouse series that I always think of the worst. If I see a pallet sticking out and I'm a high lift operator, I'm fixing that pallet. If I see cases getting ready to fall over and I'm selecting, I'll report it to somebody. Hey, there's a case hanging over up there on the 3rd level and it needs to be fixed. I always think of the worst. I always think that case could fall and hit somebody in the head. So I think in the warehouse setting, everybody should have that mentality. So the first 3 things I'm going to talk about is 3 high lifts, okay? We had 3 high lifts actually tip over. 2 of them had their forks up and they were traveling through a cross aisle area where we have racking up above. And their forks hit that racking because whether or not they were talking or weren't paying attention to their forks or whatever it is, that's why it's so important when you're on the forklift, guys, that you need to lower your forks all the way down before traveling through any type of area. And these two of the high lift operators hit the rack and their high lifts tipped over. The other high lift, he was pulling product out of the top shelf at our, the top level, and it was getting caught on something. And then when it finally released, it just whiplashed the high lift and totally put it in and knocked it over. Guys, when you're on a replant high lift, if you do drive a forklift and you're pulling product out, if you have any type of resistance, immediately get off that high lift. Make sure you're safe, make sure nothing's gonna fall or anything, but get off the high lift and observe what you're getting stuck on. I immediately stop and okay, my hands are off the controllers. I'm not going to sit there and fight with this thing. I'm going to figure out what is pulling or what is keeping the pallet in the rack, whether it's a broken wood or the rack itself is holding it in. So just always be careful when you're getting resistance pulling a product out. I'm happy to say all 3 of those people that tipped their lifts over were fine. There was no injuries there. One guy had he was out, but didn't suffer any major injuries. So those are 3 high lift operators that were fortunate. The next thing I want to talk about was an accident that, a sit-down forklift operator was driving into the back of a trailer, and that trailer pulled away at the same exact time, and he ended up dropping out of the dock onto the ground outside. He had a green light, and the truck driver on the other side claimed that he had a green light. I'm not 100% sure because this one was a long time ago. It was over 20 years ago when this happened. But I'm pretty sure he sustained some injuries, but it wasn't nothing major, but it was enough to, he had to heal up a little bit, some bangs and cuts and stuff like that. But yeah, driving in the back of that truck, if you have a green light, you're relying on that driver on the other side to know that that he has a red light. He should have had a red light. If I recall correctly, they checked those lights and they were not faulty. Someone was in the wrong. I'm not going to get into the whole smashing the ankles things. It happens, and it happens a lot. I talked about that in my previous videos. Another thing I want to talk about is we actually had pallets actually fall on people. Luckily, it was paper towels. Luckily, it was low. It wasn't nothing that was up really high, but guys, it happens. Bad high lift operator along with product that wasn't stacked properly or wasn't in the rack properly, but luckily that guy was okay too. But we did have a whole pallet, a couple pallets land on somebody. So luckily he was fine. And, but it could always have been worse if that was heavier product. And one of the major things that happened at our work, I'm not getting into the details with it, it was pretty graphic. It was involving his leg, a jack, and a rack is all I'm going to say. At that time, a very good friend of mine through work, and he was a great guy, and it's a shame that happened to him. But yeah, guys, some serious accidents can happen in the warehouse at any given time. Unfortunately, we have seen over the last couple of decades, we have seen a share of those accidents more than, even if it was only 10 in the last 2 decades, that's 10 too many, right, guys? We don't want to see anybody get hurt. So yeah, just be careful on this equipment and always think of the worst, like I said. And the last thing I want to talk about is another very, very unfortunate incident. Guys, when you get, I don't know what it is, when you get into a warehouse setting, we almost take flashbacks, we feel like we're in high school again, clowning around and, I did it when I first started, just joking around and having fun while you're at work, right? But I had a coworker at the age of 19, saw 2 of his coworkers on the outside and decided he was going to try to split their cars with the motorcycle. and unfortunately he ended up killing himself. Why do I bring that up? I still remember this kid. Like I said, I know it was a long time ago, but I bring this up is because, you know, crap happens outside the warehouse too. Guys, just be careful. You know, that's why I am constantly putting safety tips on here, because you're there doing a job. It's already a hard enough job the way it is. And, you know, guys, unfortunately, accidents do happen, but you could do everything in your power to stop it from happening. So that's one thing that I am pretty big on. I can't stand the unsafe people in the warehouse. I try to be as safe as possible. I told you, I'm always beeping my horns in intersections. You know, I'm always thinking there's someone coming. Always just think of the worst. That's all I do. I didn't want to make this video any longer than I had to, but I just thought it was a serious question. Whether he knew this was, you know, from asking a question about milk would turn into something like this, but that's how I think. You know, you bring up something and then I just start thinking of everything that's happened, and I just thought it would be a very important video to put out. So guys, this is why I always throw safety things on my videos, because the worst can happen, and just hopefully they don't. So guys, that's it for today. I appreciate the comments. If you did not let me know on my one video I put out about Discord, it has to be all free for everyone though. If it's not all free, I'm not doing it. I'm not putting money in on my end, because I make zero off this channel. So, you know, it has to be free for everyone for me to do it. Like I said, I keep doing research on it. There's just thousands of videos. I'm trying to figure out. If you guys have a Discord and you run one, let me know. Email me at timreviewseverything@aol.com. Guys, that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.